So, you know when you go with your parents to the grocery store and you kind of finally have every product, so then you go to the cashier to pay them, obviously. And then the cashier starts scanning the products, and you hear this weird beeping sound. Well, I work at a retail store, so I'm a cashier. And one thing I realized when you are a cashier is that the most challenging part is looking for those black and white stripes on the product. Now, those white and black stripes are called barcodes, and this video is all about them. So sit tight and let's begin. Now, to my surprise and partly to yours as well, barcodes are extremely old. They were invented in 1952 by these two lovely men, and which interests me more is that barcodes were originally meant as Morse code, which makes their design have a lot more sense, meaning that like a big bar will be a dot and a little bar will be a dash. But they really took off when the UK started using them for trains. Yeah, I didn't see that coming either. So what they would do is they would put a barcode at the end of a wagon, and I don't know for which function exactly because it's kind of hard to read an old English magazine from like 1962. But basically, I think they used them to understand which wagon number it was. So they used this scanner camera thing on the side of the rails, and then when a wagon would go by, it would scan it. And you have to realize that these wagons will go up to 100 miles per hour. So for that time, this was insane. After being used for a few other things, eventually they were used in supermarkets, which they are mostly known for today. And this also led with a lot of improvements to 2D barcodes and matrix codes, which I'll talk about later. But an example of these types are QR codes, for example. But yeah, now that is the history part, and let's actually talk about the different types of barcodes, because trust me, there are a lot. Now first, I'm gonna talk about the two main types of barcodes. So before I go any further, I would like you guys to know that I kind of did an oopsie. I didn't really understand 2D barcodes, so I just went with the description of them, which is correct. But to put it more simply for you guys, 2D barcodes and matrix codes are exactly the same thing, actually. It's well, kind of. There is a difference, but matrix codes are 2D barcodes, but 2D barcodes aren't matrix codes. So in this video, I kind of give a weird description of 2D barcodes, but basically 2D barcodes are just QR codes and Aztec codes and shit like that. So the square codes, basically, that you scan with your phone. So yeah, I hope that gives a little bit of a better description, but yeah. You have 1D barcodes and 2D barcodes. And partly which I should have said in the beginning of this video is that I'm not a tech nerd. So this was all very hard and complex for me. So just bear with me here. I'll try to simplify it. But to put it straight, 1D barcodes are barcodes where the data, well, just is received viewable just like every other one. But the difference is that they just simply only use the pattern of the, I guess, the size of the bars and the spaces between the bars. So just very simply how you would think a barcode would work. Meanwhile, 2D barcodes use that, but are also two-dimensional. So they use way more stuff to identify the different types of barcodes. So basically, I think you can have way more 2D barcodes than 1D barcodes. Now, what these 2D types do extra was incredibly complicated for me to find out, but basically, to put it simple, therefore 1D, one-dimensional, just looking at the sizes and the patterns, and 2D, two-dimensional, having different aspects to identify the barcode. Simple, right? But obviously, there's way more. So, they identify 1D and 2D barcodes also in 4 different types: continuous, discrete, two-width, and many-width. First of all, I'm going to talk about continuous and discrete. And this is probably the biggest part that I just didn't understand at all. But I don't want to be I don't want this to be a video where I just say I don't get it. So here's like a low explanation. Although that is probably what this video is gonna be. But to put it simple, I think at least with discrete barcodes is way less important what the pattern is and what the spaces are, whereas continuous, the patterns are way more important. And I guess that also makes sense with the names, right? And with 2-width and many-width, it's actually way more simple. 2-width means that there are two different bar types. For example, like in this one, where you have a tinier bar type and a bigger bar type. And technically, you also have the blank space, which is also a type, but it's not a type of bar. And meanwhile, many-width, like this one, has way more different types of bars. Simple, right? Yeah. And then at last, you have matrix codes, which are or kind of work like 2D codes where they have 2 dimensions, but a very big difference is that they use dots and squares. And they are also in the form of a square or a kind of more circular thing. Examples of matrix codes are QR codes, Aztec codes, and even shit like Snapchat codes. Basically, the things you scan with your phone. Those are matrix codes because, well, they look like squares or circular most of the time. And again, they use dots or squares and blank spaces instead of using bars. But for these barcodes, you obviously need readers. Now, readers take this visible data and turn it into either a simple number code or a web link. And obviously, you have 3 different types of readers. So let's get into them. First of all, you have the barcode reader that is in your phone, where you kind of normally use it to scan QR codes and sometimes 2D barcodes. Secondly, you have the most common one with the red light thing that makes a beep sound when it scans something, and that you kind of manually put over the barcode. And you see that one in supermarkets and all that stuff. And lastly, the most confusing one that I really don't get, but alright, is the one that uses keyboard interference or something. A USB scanner, I think it's also called, or something like that. And it basically scans the code and then types it manually through your keyboard. Something like that. So, yeah, I don't really... Maybe I have some visuals for you, but... yeah, those are the 3 different types of barcode readers. So, because I'm insane and I wanted to make this video a bit longer, I thought it would be funny to talk about every single barcode according to Wikipedia, and then more specifically their function. So, let's get into it. So, before I go any further, I'm sorry if you hear kids screaming in the background. My brother is currently having a sleepover. But yeah, anyway, I'm gonna start with one-dimensional barcodes that are way more simple and kind of boring, and end up with matrix codes that are really insane and you probably never have seen it before. So, we'll start with Codebar, which is a barcode that was used in... it was used for libraries, blood bags, and also air bills. But it isn't really used that much more today. Next up, we got Code 25 barcode, which has 2 versions. You have the industrial type version, whatever that means, but used for industrial stuff. And you have the other one that is used for wholesales and libraries. Then we have Code 11, which was used for telephones, but not anymore. That's about it. Next up, we have the pharma code, or Code 32, I think, which was an Italian pharma code. I don't know what pharma code means. I think it's for pharmaceuticals, but I'm not sure. But like I said, I don't think it's used anymore. And next up, we got 3 different codes. We have Code 39, Code 93, and Code 128. These are all, I think, still used, but they all have a lot of different uses. I think these 3 are kind of the main barcodes used today. Now we got a bunch of EENs, or EEN type of codes. First of all, we got EEN2, which is an add-on code used for magazines. Then we got EEN5, which is a add-on code used for books. And then we got EEN8 and EN13, which is just a worldwide retail use. So probably very commonly used. Next up, we got the GS1 128 barcode and the GS1 data bar barcode. And what you're probably gonna see a lot more throughout when I talk about these barcodes is that some barcodes are specifically owned by companies. This one or these two by GS1. And these both have various different types of uses, but I think they're just used by that company. Next up, we got two different codes, ETF14 and ETF6, and I'm just gonna read these up because they're way too complex. So yeah, ETF14 is a non-retail packaging level with an S. I don't know why it's multiple, but doesn't matter. And it's GS1 approved, and it's just an interleaved 2.5 code. And by the way, interleave 205 is also a term used for different barcodes where they have, I think, patterns or something, a specific pattern basically with bars. But yeah, it's not really important. With a few additional specifications according to the GS1 general specifications. And ITF6 is a interleaved, like the other one, 205 barcode to encode and add on to ETF14 and ETF16 barcodes. The code is used to encode additional data such as items quantity, alright, or container weight. So yeah, these ones just have very specific needs, I guess, or uses. That's why I just read them up, because I'm not gonna memorize this all out of my head. But yeah, those are, I think they're more ETFs, like they already said in the description. You also have ETF16. But yeah, these are way too specific, so yeah. Next up, we got two different Japanese barcodes. The first one being the JAN barcode, and this barcode is just used in Japan, and very compatible, or looks a lot like the EON13 barcode. This barcode also just looks very simplistic in general. I think this is a very famous barcode. And next up, we got the Japan Post barcode. That is used for Japanese post. So yeah, makes a lot of sense. Now we got the MSI barcode, which is just used for packaging and on shelves in warehouses and shit. Then we got the pharma code, which is just used for pharmaceutical services. And we got the planet code, which is used for American postal services. And by the way, something important, like the postal Japanese code that I mentioned earlier, for some reason the postal codes have way different widths. Like what I mentioned earlier, you have either a 2-width barcode or a many-width barcode. For some reason, the postal barcodes from the USA, the planet barcode, and the Japanese post barcode, these ones have like way different widths. I don't know why this is, but yeah, they also look way different, as you have seen in the picture. So yeah. And the last three of the one-dimensional barcodes, you have the Plessy barcode, which is used for warehouses and catalogs. You have the Telepen barcode, which is used for libraries, specifically in the UK. I don't know why. And you have the Universal Product Code, which is very famous and is used for worldwide retail and is also GS1 approved. So of the 2D barcodes, we first off have the Australia Post barcode, which very simply is a barcode for Australian Post. And you can already tell this is 2D barcodes right now. It looks hella weird. Next up, we got code 49, which just has various uses. I don't really know. And after that, we got code 16K. And this has a very big description, but to keep it short, it is basically used to identify chips or circuit boards. So first off, we got probably the weirdest barcode I have ever seen. I don't even know how this qualifies as a barcode. It's called the DX Film Edge barcode. It looks like this. And what the hell? I don't even see the barcode in this, but alright. But yeah, it's used for color printing films, which makes it even more confusing. How that is a barcode, I don't know. But yeah, anyway, then we got a more normal barcode called the Intelligent Mail barcode. And this kind of replaces the American Mail thing for Postnet and Planet. barcode, which I've talked about earlier. And then we got another very weird barcode called the Car Track ACL or ACI, I think, barcode. And this barcode is used for railroad rolling equipment. I don't know what that means, but yeah, like I said, now we're gonna get into some weird ass barcodes, but yeah. Next up, we got 3 different post types of barcodes. First off, we got a post bar, which is used for no, not Australian, Canadian post services. Then we got postnet, which I talked about earlier, which is for American post services. And next up, we got RM4SCC, if I remember that correctly. And that is used for Royal Mail and PostNL, which is the Netherlands Mail, and also weirdly Germany, Italy, and the UK, which I did not know. But yeah, nice that the Netherlands also have their own barcode. So yeah. And now we have the last 3 barcodes for the 2-dimensional ones. We have the RM Mail Mark C, which is used for Royal Mail, and we have the RM Mail Mark L, which is also used for Royal Mail. And lastly, this is probably one you have seen, is the Spotify codes barcode, which is used for artists, playlists, and whatever to, scan them. And why they have their own barcode, I don't know, but I guess it's handy and they have a lot of money, so why not? So before I begin with the matrix codes, I like to say 3 things. First of all, I realized in recording that my p and all that shit was kind of annoying, so I kind of dampened with the audio a bit to make it less annoying, but there are still some parts when you can hear it, so I'm sorry for that. So I added this. Hopefully it sounds better now. And also 2 other things. First of all, on the Wikipedia page, a lot of QR codes or matrix codes, don't have an image, and on purpose I didn't add, when it comes to 2-dimensional, 1-dimensional, I didn't add the codes that didn't have an image because, I don't know, I just thought it would be less interesting, and partly because they don't have an image, they are probably less interesting. So yeah, but the matrix have a lot of codes which don't have an image. So if by some reason you're interested in barcodes, sorry, but you should just search these up then. But yeah, and the last thing I wanted to say is that this is going to be quick because a lot of barcodes in the matrix code are more just designed for a certain company or a certain product. They don't really have a specific use or something like that. But yeah, so next up we got 5 different codes starting in the matrix code. First off, we got the app clip code, which is used by, well, Apple. Very simple. Then we got the AR code, which is used to put content inside, well, you guessed it, AR. I didn't know what AR was, but basically it's VR, but more shitty, basically that. Then you got the Aztec code. This is probably one of the only codes that I knew before I did research on this barcode video, and that is because this code is public domain, so it's used a lot. Aside with the QR code, it's very famous. Then you have the B code, which is used for marking bees, which I thought was really interesting. So yeah, I just think that's really cool. And then you have the B tag, which is used for tracking animals. So yeah. Now we have the boxing barcode, which is just used by a random company. Nothing too interesting about this code, only that it looks incredibly like just a migraine, basically. Then we got the color code. And yes, this code, as in the name, has color. And trust me, there are a lot more. And this code is mainly used in Korea, which I thought was interesting. And now we have the color construct code, or construct code. And what the hell? And this code doesn't even have a use, I think. I don't know what it is used for. It doesn't say. So I guess it's just open for interpretation. But it just looks hella wacky. Now we got the Frontal Visual Cryptogram code. a full name. And this code is used for e-banking, which I thought was very interesting and weird, but alright. Then we got the data glyphs code. I couldn't really find much on this code, only that this code can apparently be faded with backgrounds and images, which I thought was very interesting for a matrix code. And then we got the data matrix code, which is one of the codes that I knew before this video, and that makes sense because it's public domain, so a lot of people know this code. The Dolby Digital code is used by, well, Dolby Digital, and I don't really understand the definition, something to do with film parts and threads or something, and sound coding, which is very weird, but alright. Then we got the dot code, which is used for tracking pharmaceutical products and cigarettes. Then we got the ease code, which is just a code from Smart Life. And we got the Hangxi code, which is used for encoding Chinese characters. So, yeah. And now we got the high CC barcode, or high CCB, I think, which is probably one of my most favorite barcodes. There's nothing much really to it. It's designed by Microsoft, but it just looks very interesting. Then we got the JAB code, which is very funny because JAB actually stands for just another barcode, which is just a very creative name. And for the rest, there's nothing really much to it. Also just looks very cool. And then we got the Maxi code. And the Maxi code is used by UPS and now public domain. And now we got messenger codes, which is a code owned by Facebook, and some of you probably know it. I don't though. Then we got micro QR code, which is just a tinier QR code, I guess handy for when you just need a little bit of code or something. I don't know when you would use this, but alright. Then we got a next code, which is just some random code owned by some random company called S15 Systems or something like that. So yeah. And finally we got the PDF 417 code, which is a public domain code, although I have never seen it, so I don't know what happened with it, but yeah. The QOD is a code just owned by some random company. Looks kind of basic and yeah, nothing really much interesting about it. And now we finally got the code that everyone knows, the famous QR code. And this code obviously is public domain, but what I thought was very interesting is that this code is actually owned by a company and also patented, owned by a company called DensoWave, which I thought was very interesting. It's apparently some Japanese electric company or something like that. I don't know what it does, but yeah, I just thought that was very weird. And then after that we got the shot code, and the shot code is a code used for cameras from phones or whatever. I've never seen anything like it, probably not used that much, but yeah, probably an older model or something. And now we have finally reached the last two codes. The second last code is the snap code, also called the BUAR code, and this code is well used for Snapchat, and that's that. And the last code is the SPARQ code, or SPARQ code or something like that, and this is just a different QR code that you have probably seen before. And that was all the one-dimensional, two-dimensional, and matrix codes, or well, at least the main ones. And like I said, I left some out that didn't have an image, and there are even then like way more versions. And from those versions, you have way more versions. So yeah, but these were just kind of the main popular ones. So the whole reason why I kind of made this video to begin with is, well, at the beginning I said that I worked in a retail store, and again, when you are working as a cashier, you have to scan the products and look for the barcode basically. And every time I kind of did that a lot of times, I started kind of realizing why do we specifically use barcodes? Why do we don't really have trackers or any other things. And first of all, it's kind of logical that that will be way more expensive, but it's also because barcodes are super simple. It's just a visual way of representing data, which makes it very easy. And it's also encrypted data, where you have to scan it in order for it to be unencrypted, and then you have the data. And therefore also people not stealing it simply or something like that. It's incredibly handy, and it makes sense why it's so popular and supermarkets use it so much. Like, I think an interesting thing that I also did when I wanted to make this video, just pause the video, or when you're done with the video, stop, walk away from your desk, and just look in your room or throughout your house how many things in your house have barcodes. It would surprise you. And it kind of makes sense because, well, almost every product is buyable, or you have bought almost every product in your house party. And if it's buyable, it has a barcode. Basically, very simple. So yeah, I just thought that would be interesting. Sorry if this topic was a bit, well, very short. This is kind of an intermediate video. My video before this was Operation Blackbear, and I had to private that. Maybe in the future I will unprivate, but for now it's privated because of some personal things that I kind of did wrong. To put it slightly, we got in trouble with the police. I'm not joking, that's not a clickbait thing or anything. So yeah. And my upcoming video will be talking about a very underrated manga called Blam that I'm very interested in, and that one is probably going to be a lot longer and will probably arrive in like 4 days or 5 days or something. So that's why this is kind of a more shorter, interesting video. But I hope you guys liked it, and please, please, please subscribe. I really want to hit 100 subs, more specifically 90, because I have a bet with some of my friends that I'm going to start playing a game when I hit 90 subs. But subscribing would be great. But anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.